like diving in cold garden, diving in a wreck, it's at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Because when you dive in cold gardens, it can go up at any time, and when you're in a wreck, you go usually in 1 point in, and then there is only one exit. So when we decided to dive at the Rosalie Moller, I knew it was gonna be a tech dive because that wreck, it's deep and usually there is current and the visibility is not great. So we've decided that we will do only one dive. This means that if I wanted to see the whole wreck, make the full tour and go inside, then I will have to dive pretty quickly. Since it's deep, we decided that only 3 crew would go down and dive to that wreck. So I only had one attempt to see that old wreck. And since it's bigger than 100 meters long, then I knew it is gonna be complicated, especially if I only have one chance to see that wreck in my life. So we decided that we would go inside the wreck and make the full tour and then come back up. So there were a team of Dutch people diving in, a team of Spanish, and my wife and myself. When we talked about how we would dive that wreck, they mentioned that going inside is a little bit complicated, but I said that I would go inside and see whatever I can see when I will be inside. Since there are many accidents at the Rosalie Moller, we've decided that we will put an extra tank on the line. So when we go back up, then if we're out of air, then we'll still be able to breathe. They say that the line was attached to the bow of the boat. I suppose they will put that tank after we will dive there, because the guy who was supposed to put the tank was not diving with us at the same time. So we went down pretty quick. When we saw that hole, then my wife would say like, no way, I'm not going inside the wreck. So I told her, all right, just go above. So I headed up into the darkness. I really told my wife as a sign that she would go above, that I will just go inside and then go out at the furthest point where I can exit. So I went inside and it was pretty dark. I wanted to see that plate where they mentioned that a diver has died there and his body was lost. I could spot that plate, and then I went back up a little bit above the deck, and I was actually following the Spanish team. They were just a little bit in front of us, but they were going pretty fast and they were not stopping in front of the windows. And I was actually holding the camera in my right hand, and my computer was on my left arm. And this really is important, because the thing is, I could not really film, watch my dive, and also check my air. And this is really important at the end of the story. So I was stopping at each window, and then in one window, I remember calling my wife and said, come see, look, there is still a light there. And that light was like the old light with glass, and the one that you light with oil. And these details really tells a story to me about the story of that wreck. And these details are really important to me when I dive in a wreck. So I was spotting with my light. That became really a big mistake, because I was actually holding the camera, holding my light, and it was kind of complicated to see the computer, check the air, film and spot with the light. And at these steps, I think it was kind of important to probably drop one of the things. But since my wife doesn't want to hold the lamp and the camera, then I had to work the equipment all by myself. So we went all the way to the tails. I remember even with the current that I wanted to take a photo shoot of the whole wreck from the tail, and I lost quite a few minutes there because I wanted to go a little deeper, and I remember taking a pretty good picture actually of the wreck. And then we went back to the bow of the boat, and at this point I remember asking my wife what's your air, and I was probably at 110 and she was somewhere around 100. So we decided that we will go back to the bow. So we decided that we'd go back to the bow and still stop at every window, but not go deeper. We didn't go down at the middle part of the boat, and when we catch up the front of the boat, then I remember spotting another line. So when we arrived at the bow of the boat, then the line to go back up were there. And I remember at this time that my wife would tell me, oh well, I'm at 50 bar. And I told her, okay, look, we're gonna go back up, but I want to see the bow and probably make a photo shoot of the bow of the boat. And she was kind of stressed because she was kind of telling me like I don't have enough air. And I think I was somewhere about 70 or 80. So I felt like I have plenty of time to dive. And I remember like checking my air and feel like I have a lot of margin. So I told her like, look, wait at the line. I will go around the bow and I'll meet you back at the line. So she was kind of stressed, but we kind of like agreed this would work. I'm just going by myself. And I was the only one actually who tried to go to the bow of the boat, but I knew I only have one chance to see the whole boat since I would probably not come back to see that wreck again. So I went to the bow, and I remember thinking on the middle of the boat, and I was kind of surprised because it was not mentioned that another line will be in the middle of the boat, and that is really important for the rest of the story. The current is kind of strong. So it was kind of a hard time for me to not pan too fast with a fin and go to the bow. And I remember thinking like, it's really far. And I was probably around halfway, and then I kind of like, no, there's no way I can go and take a picture of the bow. So I went a little bit higher. Well, I kind of turned back, not reaching completely the bow, but I remember seeing it. And on my way back to the line, I checked my air, and I was already at somewhere around 50 down to 40. And I kind of like, shit, thinking like, shit. And I was kind of thinking like, shit, if something goes wrong and I'm out of air here, then I'm pretty screwed, like I'm completely by myself. And I knew I had to swim quite a little, probably 1 or 2 minutes to reach the line again, because I was completely away from that line. So I remember at this time thinking, I'm fucked, and I'm really playing with my life. And that's really the problem with me thinking I have a lot of margin, because I'm really playing with my life, and when you think you have a lot of margin like me, I think that the margin you're playing with, you can't really go that far away from your comfort zone, because at the end it's death. I mean, it's a dead end. So my margin is already really far, and when I'm out of my comfort zone, I'm already really at the death limit actually. And this really is stupid, I think, and I should have not played that much with my life. So well, I finally arrive and catch that line and see my wife who's kind of like stressing, let's go back up, let's go back up. So we start going up, and then I remember like dropping my camera and feeling like I need to check about the safety stops. And I knew that I usually manage my safety stop pretty well. So I'm checking my computer. I see a 14 minutes safety stop, and it's not optional. It's a mandatory safety stop. I remember checking my air, and I was already at 30 bar, and at this point I felt like shit, I'm probably gonna have an accident on that dive. Hopefully I won't die. And I was even more scared for my wife because she has never been in that situation before. Was thinking, well, there is this extra tank on the line, so even if I'm out of air, I just need to manage my safety stops and reach that extra bottle of air and we'll be fine. So we go back up. I remember that I had to make a safety stop at somewhere around 10 or 11 meters. So I felt like I'm gonna go fast back to the surface. But what I mean fast is really like the max I can do with respecting my safety stops. So I remember like going to the surface pretty fast, checking my computer all the time, and I kind of like managed that pretty well, and I ended up at a final stop at 11 minutes at somewhere around 5 meters. And at this point, I'm checking my bar in my air, and I'm already at 20. And I can already feel like it was hard to breathe. I checked my wife, she's still at 40 something. And I remember seeing the Dutch guy coming back up. I didn't see them quite a lot during the dive. They didn't go to the bow of the boat. They did stay a little higher from the deck because they knew the depth was pretty deep. So they came up, I see them, and I'm telling to them like, look, I'm out of air. And I see the guy is checking his air, and he's like, oh, I'm at 60, so I cannot give you any air. But I don't think he realized that I was really like, I'm already struggling to breathe. So I look at him, I'm like, dude, fucking hell, I'm gonna die, I have no more air. So I take I go to my wife, I take her air, and we're going back up. And then the Dutch guy, they realize like, shit, these guys, they're really in trouble. And I even tell them like, look, my wife is also going out of air, and we have a long stop to make. So we all stopped at 5 meters, and the extra tank was not there. And what happened actually that there was another line, the one I mentioned, and they put the extra tank on the other line. So I told to the Dutch guy, look, give me some air. And they had her wife, she still had something like 90, so she felt like, guys, I'm giving you my air. So I start taking her air, and I tell to the Dutch guy, look, I'm thinking they promised that they will put the extra tank because they know there are many accidents on that Rosalie Moller wreck. Go and see on the other line if there is that extra tank, because we can move there and we're all gonna be fine. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna check that. Then he comes back, he doesn't say anything to me, but he was kind of like not stressed at all. So I was thinking like, well, probably the extra tank is there, I hope. And what happened is that they also had that safety stop, but probably like 5 or 6 minutes, and not something like 11 minutes like I had. And what happened is that we saw the Spanish guy coming back up really fast. And I kind of like stopped the lady and kind of like tell her, but I mean, you're going really fast. Don't they have any safety stops? Because you even stay longer than us down there. And she had something like a 15-minute safety stops. So I'm not thinking about them, but I feel like, fuck, they're really in trouble. And I was thinking, what we should do if there is no extra air, because we cannot be like 6 people on the extra tank, the guy that has the shortest safety stop then has to come back to the boat, tell them, send us a bottle, and then we'll be fine. And what happened is that we stayed about like 5 minutes, and then I look around and the Spanish guy, they were gone. I was kind of like thinking like, where are they? Well, I was not thinking that much. I was really like checking the air that we had to share with the Dutch guy because they were getting really low. Well, we finally managed to make the safety stop, like 11 minutes. We cleared the way, we went back to the surface. And once we went back on the boat, then the Spanish guy was there and they was like feeling like, oh, all right. And I knew they're probably gonna have to go back to the city and got medical assistance because they did not make any safety stop. I wanted to tell them like maybe you should go back down and take a new tank and make the safety stops. And I got told that the week before, then some people had a really bad accident on that Rosalie Moller wreck. So diving in such wreck, it's in the one hand is an incredible thing because it's scary and you need to be really careful, and on the other hand it's amazing because you see many things that you usually not see in certain dives. It's really something with history, and I love this kind of wreck diving. Always an adventure diving in a wreck, but be safe, guys.